Jason Hartley was a self-made man. By 32, he had built a multi-million-dollar tech company from scratch. Despite his success, he remained grounded. Perhaps too grounded, some would say, for the glittering circles he now moved in. At a charity gala one autumn evening, he met Eliza. She was beautiful, poised, and seemed fascinated by Jason's humility and quiet confidence. She laughed at his dry jokes, leaned in when he spoke, and made him feel seen in a way he hadn't felt in years. Within 6 months, they were engaged. Jason's friends warned him. "She's too polished, too rehearsed," his best friend Marcus had said, but Jason dismissed it. Love had a way of softening even the sharpest minds. He wanted to believe in her, in them. One night, about a month before the wedding, Jason arrived unannounced at Eliza's townhouse to surprise her. He had a small velvet box in his coat pocket, a vintage sapphire ring she'd once admired in passing. He stepped into the building's lobby and heard laughter echoing down the hallway. It was coming from her balcony, Eliza and 2 of her friends sipping wine and talking openly. He paused when he heard his name. "6 months," Eliza said, giggling. "That's all I need. 6 months as Mrs. Hartley, and then I file. I'll walk away with a few million, maybe more if I play the sweet victim. He's rich enough not to fight it." Her friends burst into laughter. Jason stood frozen. The velvet box in his hand suddenly felt like a brick. He didn't make a sound. He slipped away quietly, his heart pounding with disbelief and betrayal. That night, the sapphire ring went back in its box, untouched. The next morning, Jason made a few calls. A top-tier lawyer, a private investigator. Then he made a plan. The wedding went on as scheduled. Jason didn't confront her. Instead, he smiled, kissed her in front of the cameras, and played the role of the doting husband. He didn't want revenge. He wanted clarity and proof. Over the next 6 months, he quietly removed her name from every joint account. He documented her spending, her secret meetings, her whispered phone calls, all of it legal, all of it methodical. At the 6-month mark, just as Eliza had planned, she served him with divorce papers. But this time, the smile was his. In court, Jason's team unveiled everything. The recording from the balcony, the texts, the timeline. The evidence was overwhelming. The judge was unmoved by Eliza's act of tears and indignation. She left with nothing but public humiliation. Jason walked away, a little more guarded, a lot more wise, but with his dignity intact. The media had a brief field day. Gold digger exposed made the rounds. Eliza tried to spin her story. "He recorded me without consent," she cried during a podcast interview. "It was all taken out of context." But the court had ruled. The public wasn't interested in her revisions. Work offers dried up. Invitations stopped coming. Her friends, those who had once laughed with her, distanced themselves. Reputation in her world was everything, and hers was in tatters. Meanwhile, Jason sold his company quietly and moved to a lakeside town far from the city's noise. He didn't want fame or sympathy. He wanted peace. There, in the calm of the trees and water, Jason began to rebuild, not a company, but himself. He took up painting again. He read poetry and philosophy. He started writing a memoir, unsure if anyone would ever read it. And then came Ava. She was the owner of a little bookstore in town, quiet, witty, curious. She didn't flinch at silence or fill it with empty words. They first met reaching for the same old poetry book. Frost, of course. Over time, conversation replaced coincidence. Coffee turned into long walks. Laughter returned, slowly and without motive. Ava never asked about the money. She didn't even bring up the headlines until Jason did, months later. When he told her the truth, the balcony, the plan, the betrayal, she simply said, "Sometimes life makes us swallow fire before we can breathe." With Ava, there was no act, no angle, just presence. One evening, nearly a year after the infamous divorce, Jason stood on his balcony, overlooking the still lake, holding that same velvet box in his hand. He opened it, looked at the sapphire ring, still perfect, still untouched, and quietly let it fall into the water below. Some things, he realized, aren't meant to be kept. And this time, when he smiled, it was real.